Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Come up, y'all. Come up. Hey. Like and share. You can find me on Blue Sky, santitajackson.bsky.social. I'm on X at Santita J. I'm also on Facebook, the Santita Jackson and Friends page, and right here on YouTube, everybody. Meet me over here. Become my friend. Like and subscribe. I need you. We've got to talk about Social Security. I know we've been talking about it a lot, but you all have been reaching out to me a lot about Social Security because guess what? Now it's beginning to get real. Uh, Doge has already dismantled so much of the agency, just as uh, Postmaster DeJoy dismantled the post office. And so you see a real slowdown in the receiving of your mail. That's not the fault of the postal workers. The postal system didn't collapse, it was collapsed. Social Security, SNAP, Medicare, Medicaid, they're being collapsed. But there is something that you can do. Hey, Carol, Saskia, sending you so much love, and easy peasy, Paula. Hey to you too. Everybody like and share. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what's really happening because now this big, beautiful bill is going to the Senate. And even though you will have some senators pull back some monies into the system because they're, as you can see from Joni Ernst, they are really beginning to hear it from their constituents. They're beginning to hear that, wait a minute, I'm scared. I'm going to die. People are going to die. And although she said, and she has not dialed it back, well, people are going to die. She said it sarcastically. Well, everybody's piling on Senator Ernst, but the fact is they're all behaving this way. Anyone who would construct a bill this way, anyone who would prioritize people this way, that's how they feel. She just said the quiet part out loud, everybody. But the question is, what can you do to fight back? There is a lot that you can do to fight back. There's a whole lot you can do. And so we're going to talk about that because there is a movement. The reason Elon Musk is out the door is because of you. It's because of us. We said he's got to go. He became a political liability for the president. They can frame it any way they want. We know what really has happened here. You put him out. And you have the power to put your money back into the system. You already paid into Social Security. You're supposed to get it. Entitlements, that's the framing of the corporate media. Yeah, you are entitled to that. You're as entitled to it as Wall Street is when they get into trouble. They privatize their losses. They privatize their wins and they socialize their losses. We're the ones who always pay. So let's get it out of our minds. Let's stop looking for welfare queens and kings. They're not the people who are really gaming the system. What did Malcolm X say? We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. And so we got to talk about this. I'm so happy to welcome to the show Naima Latif, one of my dear sisters here in Chicago. Of course, been active in Rainbow Push and so many causes here, but she is a television host and producer. That's right. The Female Global Solution radio and TV show. I encourage you to give it your support. More and more people are going to independent media. They want to hear themselves reflected. They want people to tell the truth. And she does that. My dear sister, it airs live 7 days a week on YouTube and multiple platforms. What time does it air live, Naima?
7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Time. So, of course, adjust whatever time you are in the world to Central Time, and you'll know exactly when it airs. But yes, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central, Sunday and Saturday, 12 to 1 p.m. Central. And we've got a fabulous team of hosts that constantly keep us informed and involved. So I'm grateful for that.
I love it. And of course, your book, Slavery, the African-American Psychic Trauma, something you and Dr. Joy DeGree have been talking about, post-traumatic slave syndrome. It's a very real thing. Well, a lot of people are about to have a lot of trauma because guess what? When these checks dry up, what will people do? What will they do? Alex Lawson, Executive Director of Social Security Works. They are our premier advocacy organization for Social Security, but they also advocate on for Medicare, Medicaid. They're helping us to look at SNAP. He's been sounding the alarm. You know, no one listens to you until it comes upon you. I don't know what it is, Alex, but I don't want you to think that you are being repetitive now that these checks are slowing down, and now that the first part of this bill has passed, people are saying, wait a minute, this is no longer theoretical. This is real. The president kept saying, and he keeps saying, I don't want you to cut. Don't cut. But Congressman Jonathan Jackson and the Congressional Black Caucus, the Progressive Caucus, so many people have said, hey, wait a minute. Maxine Waters, Auntie Maxine said, the cuts are here. They're already in here. You said that. What say you? And then what can we do about it, Alex?
So, great to be here as always. And this is, I think you laid it out perfectly, but there are just a few things just today. The Senate Finance and Senate Help Democrats released a study from Yale that showed 51,000 people die a year because of the cuts in this bill. 51,000 people per year with methodology. That's how public health works.
That's almost 140 people a day.
We know. When the question isn't even from us anymore. It's crossed over into the it's the believability or the smell test, because a Republican was just saying in a big Politico article, he's like, I mean, where else would the savings come from? It has to be from taking healthcare away from people. And when you take healthcare away from people, they are harmed. And if you're dealing with the most vulnerable people in our society, then many of them will die. And now we've got a quantity on it. So we know what the Republican plan is. They're willing to kill 51,000 people a year in order to give trillions of dollars in tax handouts to billionaires. That's what's happening. There's an interesting thing that happened, though. You mentioned we pushed out Elon Musk, and that's great. And don't think he left on his own, or it was our voices. He became a liability for the White House, and then he became a liability for his company, and he knew he had to, but he's not out, and he's hitting the Republican bill from the right, which there is a large amount of people in the Republican world that hate this thing from the right. And that is a huge...
Why from the right? Because we see it from the left. Right. Forward about that. But, you've talked about Josh Hawley, and I've been looking at him. But you got
the basically the two schools of Republican opposition from the right. There's Josh Hawley, who is talking about Medicaid in the right way. It's very useful. And then there's Rand Paul, who's just sort of a libertarian bozo. But he actually opposes it because it does add tremendously to the deficit, which you can see in the bond market's reaction to it. And that's where Elon Musk is opposing it. He's saying this bill explodes the debt and deficit, which it does. I just am always like, it also kills 51,000 people a year, but they don't care about that.
Those are little things.
All of that is to say that I wouldn't call this thing inevitable. I mean, we've all been here. No one was predicting in Trump 1.0 that we would defeat Trump Care in the Senate, right? With that dramatic thumbs down. They got it out of the House last time as well. So now is the most important time to be raising our voices. Starting immediately, we can do all of our own organizing. We run a bunch of hands-off Medicaid events. We have one in Iowa on Thursday. We'll be talking about Joni Ernst and Representative Miller Meeks. You can go to our website, Social Security Works, and get information on that. But I also want to talk about a big national day of action that everyone can take part in on June 14th. I think people know that's the day that Donald Trump is going to march tanks down the streets of DC to try to give himself, a military parade in the matter of autocrats, in the manner of autocrats. It's the most deeply un-American thing. Well, we're not going to have anything in DC, but all around the country, we will be having events, hundreds of events, and they're in every nook and cranny of this country. And the idea is saying, no, we don't have kings in this country. We don't have kings. We don't agree that this president can do whatever he wants. And you can go to nokings.org. So it's easy. It's June 14th. The action's called No Kings. The website is nokings.org. You'll see a map there with all these events. If there's not an event in your location, you can host one. And there's instructions on how to host. And Indivisible are the backbone of this movement and have been doing amazing work in these big distributed actions. But it's broader than any one organization. It's everyone who has been out in the streets. 5051 have had millions of people in the streets against Donald Trump, against this accumulation of power behind one man, probably the least worthy person of power that I can think of off the top of my head. And he wants all of the power. So that is what we do. And I don't know if you want to.
Alex, let me ask you this before you go any further, because I think that it's important for us to even understand the coalitions that we can establish, however temporary they are, on the right. I mean, honestly, Rand Paul's philosophy, Josh Hawley's philosophy, I don't care what they are right now. If they can help to stop this, I want to work with them so that we can stop this, because it is that important. And see, these are political animals, right? These are politicians. At some point, Alex Lawson, Naima Latif, they pay attention to numbers. That's true. I remember the night that, and I was away in school, but it made national news. When Harold Washington died, Alex, Naima, you might remember this.
Oh, absolutely.
Hundreds of thousands of people jammed the streets in below freezing temperatures because we thought they were going to try and abscond with the seat of the mayor. And we said, we will not have it. It was something you could not, it was like the Million Man March.
Yes.
It was these anti-war marches. It was, and they had to go away from where they wanted to go, but the Harold Washington's choice by that time had already been damaged, but that's another story. But people power, Alex, you're saying, wait a minute, stop it. Before we get too far afield here, we need to know that we have the power, even in this moment, because, these are like, you got the richest, publicly the richest guy in the world. You've got a billionaire who publicly, a billionaire, and his children are in the White House and they're in his cabinet. So that can be intimidating to people. But what you're saying to us, Alex, and I'll get to you shortly, Naima, because this is your bailiwick as well. That this is not something, but I know Alex, I'm catching him in the middle of all these other things today. And I have him on the show like every other day. But I think it's important. That's why we meet at Push every week. And of course, I want you all to come to our convention June 12th, 13th, and 14th, because we will be organizing there and we'll be organizing beyond that, because people have to be encouraged and you have to keep, the movement never stops, Alex. But how would you frame for people who are in red states, right, or who have red representatives, Republican representatives, who would be, quite frankly, who publicly are inclined to vote for this big, beautiful bill, but who privately know that they are politically quite vulnerable?
Yeah.
What's the play?
I think there's a couple things. So one, popular protest is so important. Mass mobilization is the number one antidote to authoritarianism is actually just millions of people in the streets saying no. And that's proven throughout history. You can't have a strongman authoritarian where you have his people that he's trying to, exert his power over are en masse saying no. So don't think ever that like protest doesn't do anything. Protest does everything. It is the physical reminder that all power is with the people. So that No King's March, June 14th, like the symbolism of it is so key. And there's so many ways for people to take part. And if there's a big event and you go with a hands-off Social Security, a hands-off Medicaid sign, that's helping get your message across in that venue. On the bill, when it comes to actually a strategy to defeat the bill, it is maximum chaos in the Senate Republican caucus and maximum unity in the Senate Democratic caucus. And the grassroots doing everything they can to ensure both of those. So holding the Democrats together 100% against the bill, and then looking at strategically. You don't have to say we're allied with Rand Paul. Like, I don't think I could help him if I say something positive about his stuff. His people, that's probably a negative for him. But I can be aware of what's going on. And with somebody like Josh Hawley, that side, there's some work that can be, because he's saying he's against it because it'll close Medicaid hospitals. And I'm like, oh, that's why I'm against it too. So there are opportunities to raise up that side of things. And remember that you have Senators Murkowski and Collins, who are very potential no votes. And
why would they be potential no votes? I mean, I know typically, you can kind of move Murkowski and Collins, but there are particular reasons you might be able to move them now.
I think looking at the first Trump era, when we defeated Trump Care 1.0, and seeing who the no votes are, I don't think we can count to 3 yet today. But if you start with Collins and Murkowski, and you can't count on it, so you have to put maximum pressure on them, but sort of like be the hero messaging. And then you're focusing on very vulnerable Republicans, like also in Alaska, Sullivan, in North Carolina, Tillis, in Iowa, Ernst, and organizing as strongly as possible against them, which is more of a, if you vote no, you're gonna lose your job. And
do you think Ernst is vulnerable now?
Ernst, I think, is tremendously vulnerable. I don't think I've seen a political punch to their own face that big in like a long while. She became the face of the Republican plan, directly opposed to what the Republican message on, because the Republicans continue to just lie and say it's not going to cut Medicaid, even though the numbers are right there, as our Democratic friends in the House have been saying. You read it, it's right there.
Yeah.
But that's she is vulnerable. I think that a lot of Republicans who you might not think are vulnerable because the amount of outrage is building. And you sort of open with this. It's starting to hit people in their daily lives right now, and that'll just increase as it goes. And they're attacking all of this stuff through the budget, but Elon Musk and what they've done through executive order has already been devastating, right? Devastating cuts that mean the machinery of government, like the Social Security Administration, who actually send the checks, have been devastated and don't have enough labor to actually function as they need to. At the same time, they keep putting AI into everything, right? This is their whole thing. And
everything.
And the AI is broken. It's garbage. It makes things worse. They did a Washington Post investigation at Social Security. They called up and they kept asking a simple question to the AI, and it kept responding incorrectly until it hung up on them. Right. So like their solution is chaos. And that's what's coming more and more. So we need to be ready and organized in grabbing people as that chaos unfolds.
Yes.
Well, just before you go, very quickly, walk us through how we can organize. Because I think, one of the things that we learned from the Democratic machine in Chicago, the genius of Richard Daley was that he organized the city. Hey, you don't have to agree with his politics. I certainly did not. But he was a political genius. And he organized, Naima, because the machine still holds today. He's been dead 50 years.
They're still there, yes.
He organized block by block. You don't even have to go into your neighborhood per se. He had precinct captains. You were in charge of your block.
Yes.
And then someone else was in charge of several blocks until then you became a precinct captain. I think we can do it this way. Plus, it'll help you to get to know your neighbors. Alex, what?
I think the basics of organizing have never changed. And it's sort of for good or for bad. That when you say machine, what you're talking about is just organized people. And the techniques are always the same. You organize the people in your network, in your neighborhood, your neighbors, people who, if you go to church, people who go to the same church or book club, whatever things that you are part of, you talk to people in those venues, and you also identify where organizing is already happening. So like there's indivisible chapters all over the country. There's probably a local one. You can plug in there, find people who are doing what aligns with your values and get engaged with them. And I think the most powerful act that you can take is to just get organized. Do it in a systematic way. Power is built with spreadsheets very often, including people power. But at the end of the day, it's spreadsheets of people. Maybe it's an old school phone tree or an email list or a group chat, a signal group, a direct right? Like that's where you gather people and align your goals around, say, No Kings. We want to participate in No Kings on June 14th. You're going to bring more people into that. And then there's this wonderful thing, and I can kind of end with this because I think we all here know this, but the power that comes when you are working towards something with your neighbors and then seeing and being part of, shoulder to shoulder, standing with your neighbors, raising your voices together, maybe looking at your cell phone and seeing millions of people doing the same thing on the same day all around the country. That's when you know for certain that you're not alone. You're not alone in this fight against the richest people in the world. Guess what? They've got all sorts of money, but we've got people. We've got people. And the people is where all the power actually resides. And you can feel it when you take part in things like a mass day of action on June 14th that you can get more, you can learn more, plug in nokings.org. It is so important to raise our voices. But when we do it together, then they can ignore us. They can't ignore us. And when we do fight, we know we actually win when we fight.
Well, as Reverend Jackson says, if you don't fight, you're guaranteed to lose.
Right.
But if you do fight, you just might win. And he said, you know what? And we've never won unless we fought. How about that part? So you got to get out there. We have to do it. And we can, because you're right. It's not a fait accompli. So but we have to still keep warning people that if you don't fight, if you do not fight, these cuts will go through, and I promise you, I don't want to see these checks flow up for you. He's already disengaged the system.
Yes.
So it's going to be slower. It's going to be harder. Alex Lawson, Social Security Works. And your website is?
socialsecurityworks.org.
And and what is it? No Kings?
NoKings.org for June 14th.
June 14th.
NoKings.org.
Of course, you'll be back because we'll be talking about that. We're going to organize for that. Alex Lawson, my guy, Social Security Works Executive Director. Much
Thank
love.
you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Naima Latif, you have been, you've taken your activism into the media space. I guess you and I both can say that. This was not my plan. You know that. Not the plan. But,
well, as you've said, independent media really has become a dominant voice. People can look on their cell phones and get news. And this is more powerful than where we've ever seen the media. So when we decide what we want to believe, we have to listen to those voices that are speaking the truth and not propaganda. One of the things about organizing is that you have to have a game plan after the action. What do we think this nation should look like in terms of our health care, our wellness care? And what vision do we have and what action plan do we have to make that happen? So yes, we can say what we don't want, but we have to also clearly define what we do want and how do we get it that way. And I've seen countries and I've been to countries where healthcare is free or healthcare is accessible. And at the same time, I've been to places and been to countries where if you didn't have money, you die. So if that's what people are afraid of, is America going to get to that place where you don't have money, you just die? Because
that is, wait a minute, that is the United States. Because even with good insurance, with good insurance, you are going to come away with a bill. That is back-breaking in its weight. So I mean, that's why I'm saying, and wait a minute, when you go into these restaurants, fast food and otherwise, and just when you go around and you see our elders working, Naima Latif, it is heartbreaking. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not the way this is supposed to be. You're not supposed to be huffing and puffing at 65 and 70.
absolutely.
That's not right.
So that means that we have to have a strategy to create the structure that we want it to be, so that our elders do have the dignity to be able to relax in their senior years and be the grandparents that babysit and volunteer as they choose to do, as opposed to being under stress for survival. We can make that happen, but we have to be able to envision what that looks like and what kind of legislation would formulate that. So yes, we know the legislation we don't want. Now we put people in office that we know agree with our philosophy. Let's help craft the legislation that we do want, so that we can have the kind of society that we want. We can have the kind of society that takes care of its citizens' health. And we also have the kind of society that doesn't make healthcare such a profitable business, so that it's not really bent on healing, but just prolonging people's illness so they can get paid. Because as you know, if you've got good insurance, they'll keep you hanging on forever. They never heal you. They just keep your insurance paying because you can afford it. Now, if you don't have any insurance, again, they'll let you die because they're not making any money off of you. So that's another mindset that has to be changed. We're trying to get people well and not just pay for treatment just because they have the insurance to afford it. The intention has to be right as well.
What are you hearing from people? I mean, as you talk to people, as you relate to people from day to day, because you're very, very active in the community. Number one, do you think people are aware of what is coming down the pike?
People are afraid, and
so they're aware.
They're aware, but we as media people, we also have to be aware of the intention of what we're being told, so that we don't repeat things that create panic without thought, because people can get into a reaction instead of an action plan. And often that's what happens.
But stay with me on this side for a minute before we talk about what we need to do. Right.
So what people are saying.
Yeah, I want to know what people are saying, because I want to talk with you about what we need to do, but also how the message is being crafted by the media that is most accessible to people, most readily accessible, which is corporate media, which is unfortunate, but that's it. Although more and more young people I mean, they've already turned off of legacy media. They're
Yeah.
done.
But that,
I mean,
that's a good thing in a sense, because
it's great.
that means that they are seizing the power to define the message. And that's
so. What are you hearing from people about?
what I'm hearing from elders is a lot of fear, a lot of panic, and they can easily. I talked to a group of seniors the other day, and they were saying, "Well, aren't you afraid of what's going to happen? Aren't you afraid of what this president is going to do?" Yes, he did get in office and do a lot of executive orders, but we do have the vote. We do have the ability to put in office the legislators that can override his orders or introduce legislation counter to what he has put in motion. And then once he's gone, just like he was seeking to overturn and reverse things that had already been on the books, we can do the same thing. Every 4 years, you have a chance to really undo everything, which is, in a sense, that's the good thing about a democracy. But then on the other hand, the good thing is that there's a constitution that is in place, and you can't just throw that out, even though he gives the impression that he has the power to do so. We should know he does not.
But Naima, it's him, but it more presidents really are front persons.
Yes.
For larger construct.
Absolutely.
And I think we need to really, because we have gotten so carried away with his personality and others that we've gone for personality and we've gone past policy. And that is always a mistake.
That's
the fact is, he has a policy that the corporate world and the oligarchs are supporting. I think we have to, because it's like we're aiming at the wrong target. It's like there's no need to boycott the school when the Montgomery bus boycott. We needed to boycott the buses. You know what I mean? We needed to don't ride the bus. Stop. That's you got to aim that way. And I'm thinking about maybe some corporations, Naima, who like we've been doing that with Target. Oh, I miss my Target, but I don't miss them that much. Pastor Brian said, look, don't go, because this is what they've done with DEI, and we are their margin of profit.
So this is what I mean about a strategy, because collectively, yes, we can boycott. And then what is the next step after that? After you have removed the profits from these organizations that are supporting policies that you don't like, then what is the next step? And we have to really take responsibility for the kind of society that we want. Does that mean that we are intending to buy out these stores? Are we looking at having some type of structure, cooperative ownership of stores like Target? I mean, are we ready to take responsibility for the structures that we create above and beyond protesting when people do things we don't like? One thing I love about watching what's happening in Africa right now is that they're realizing, look, we own the land, we own the minerals, we got brains. Why are we following these people and letting them tell us what to do? Get out. We got this. This is ours. We need to have that same mindset. And one of the things we talk about in the book, Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma, is the fact that we in this land have been conditioned to think that we are powerless and that we have to depend on someone else, even though our history has shown us when we have organized, whether it's the Black Wall Street, Tulsa, all the different successes that we've had, when we've created industries, when we've developed schools, when we've created inventions, we have always had the power to create our own society or our own structure, or even be dominant wherever we live, to be able to be self-sustaining. We have to believe that and have that as a strategy beyond the protesting of what is, create what we want it to be. That's why I think it's good that the young people have turned off a lot of the mainstream media, and they got their own world going on right on their cell phone. but that's okay, because that means that they are not easily manipulated into fear and belief and helplessness. Because a lot of times that's what happens when we listen to what's happening and we're acting like, oh, this man, he's going to take over. He's one man and he's an old man. So how long is he even going to be here? So our plan has to be beyond, these next 2-3 years of Donald Trump.
But look at his bench, because it's not even about Donald Trump. You got J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Caroline Levitt. I mean, he has this under 40 crowd on lock. And paying attention to him is like, you guys, I hear you. It's the outside personality. I was looking at a CNN story 30 years ago when he came out of bankruptcy. He narrowly avoided bankruptcy. The bank saved him. And Mr. Pomerantz, who was a lawyer for the 72 banks that he owed, he was almost $1 billion in debt personally and more than $1 billion in debt corporately. He said, we decided that he was worth more to us alive than dead. Gloria Borger from CNN did the report. Everybody look it up. He said he was worth more alive to us than dead. We realized that this man has talent. He's a great showman. So we decided to have him work for us. Wilbur Mills, who became his commerce secretary, was the person who restructured his debt. We have to think bigger, which is what you're saying. What kind of society do you want? But we also have to look at who are the people behind the folks that we see.
And who are we training? Who are we raising up prepared to take over in that age group? That's our responsibility.
That's our responsibility. And wait a minute. And you have to also have the spirit to serve. Because everybody keeps asking, well, who did Jesse Jackson prepare? Reverend tried to give, as you know, the organization to several people. One person almost drove it into bankruptcy because he was busy. He looked at Reverend as a celebrity instead of the workhorse that he always has been.
Yeah.
He got a driver. He didn't know that Uncle St. Clair Booker, pulled his clothes, was driving him, was taking care of memberships, making sure that the tickets were right. This was not a celebrity thing. This was and then Frank Watkins, these are all people you have known.
Oh, yes. And they work. I've seen them work well into the night, doing the grunt work. So that's really what organization building is about. And that's the thing we can teach our young people. It's not about just standing up and being a great orator. You have to work and organize behind the scenes and spend some hours and strategize and research, get some knowledge. One of my favorite people, of course, was
people.
Yes, serve people. And one of the people I really admired was Dr. George Edgar Riddick. I mean, he could spit out those numbers, but he researched, and when it came down to facts and figures that you base your strategy on, he had that information. And that's what we need. And a lot of young people, I mean, they got tools we didn't have. They got Google and all
we did this pre-internet.
Yeah.
But Reverend valued the information so much that is what he did. Yeah. But he also was a pastor of a small church. I don't think they had 50 members. And he would spend his other time during the week making sure that people had groceries. Yeah. Making sure they had something to eat.
Yes.
Making sure they got to the doctor.
Yes.
Using the resources that he was able to get it pushed to make sure that people were all right.
Yeah.
See, we have to have a shift in strategy, but I've got Chaparral Wells with us. And of course, she has had this wildly successful podcast that has discussed the death of her son. It seems that the Chicago police just let him die as he was begging to go to the hospital, which was across the street. More than 2 million people have seen the podcast. You've seen her on Dateline. Of course, she's had the Courtney Copeland Foundation, which was her son's name. But she's also run for office. Almost got it just a few months ago. And then she's a brilliant caterer. And so all of these things, she's very active in the community. And she was one of the people who reached out and said, look, people are worried, as you have said, Naima Latif. They are worried about these checks that are about to slow down. About when my brother Congressman Jackson, Jonathan Jackson, said, see, when you unplug Medicaid, Medicare, which is for the more affluent people, that's going to collapse.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just like the world. If you don't have the poor and the working class holding you up, everybody dies.
Everybody falls. Yes.
Chaparral, what are your thoughts? We were talking with Alex Lawson a little bit earlier about June 14th, the No Kings get-togethers and rallies that we'll be having. But he was also talking about organizing. We've been talking about, Naima, organizing block to block so we can have these hands-off get-togethers so that you can start calling these lawmakers and letting them know this is how I need you to vote. Chaparral, what say you?
Well, Santita, you know I'm also a foster mom of 4 kids, and they receive these benefits. They receive Medicare. You know, the state pays for Medicaid for them. It's called youth care for the people who are in care, and I'm worried that they're not going to have their coverage. Now, when you have children that are in care, they have the ability to take care of them long term because they don't have parents that are able to provide them with health care until they're 26. So these children may get kicked off, and I have 3 of them with special needs. And so the reality is hitting me hard because I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? You know, my husband, he has health care insurance, but because we are just their guardian and not, you know, legally adopted, they can't get on my husband's insurance. And then I think about my mom, who is a 3-time cancer survivor, who is on Medicare and Medicaid, because sometimes you can get both because you don't qualify. And so how is she going to get her treatments? And so I think that what we need to do as people who have this need, we have to begin to express what it is that's actually happening, because the Republicans are very good at covering it up, are making us think that it's not so bad. Just like Trump said, oh, it may hurt a little bit. No, the Democrats need to be saying, no, this will kill you. If they remove Medicaid and Medicare, this people will die. We need to start saying that out loud. And what I'm concerned is that the Democrats are a little bit too silent for me, Santita.
What do you mean?
Know, people, they're not express. I think that this is like something that is golden for them to really. I think they need to reclaim their voice, their platform, their agenda, and this will be something that is easily they can easily take the reign, because everybody needs and loves Medicare and Medicaid. I don't care if you're rich or poor. You like paying that 80% as opposed to paying 100%. You like that security, and they're not raising hell enough for me to say, hey, this is going to happen. There should not be one senator that votes in favor of this bill. And until we begin to apply the pressure, and the Democrats have money, which makes me feel that they're part of this scheme as well, because they are not sounding the alarm in the manner in which that the American people need to hear it. Every day, every commercial, just like when they sit up here, I don't know how many political commercials I saw for Kamala Harris and the other side for Trump. Every time I turn on the TV, I was seeing a commercial. That's what they need to do for this Medicare bill. They need to put it out. Hey, when the Republicans pass this bill, they're gonna kill you. You're gonna die. I mean, seriously,
I agree.
They need to do shock and awe at this point. If the bill passes, you're going to die. And they need to say it every day and say it loud, because they are so silent. It's just like, well, you know, even because our voices, people are in the streets. I will like to say that. People are in the streets. People are protesting. People are writing. They're on Twitter. They're going to these town halls. We're raising our voices. However, we don't have the amplifier that the politicians have. And that's why it is incumbent on them to get onto the media and the mainstream. I'm like, where's Barack Obama? Where is Hillary Clinton? All these people who protect you. We fought for you to have the ACA, and you gonna let them tear it down? This is your name. This is your legacy. You gonna let them throw your, and you ain't said nothing. I know that he is the ex-president, but he still has political power.
Wait.
And this is
wait a minute, Shapiro and Naima, Jimmy Carter showed you he was the exemplar of what an ex-president should do and be.
Mm.
He went out here building houses for the poor.
Yes.
He wrote books. He took moral stances. I'm not saying you need to teach Sunday school, but he did that. And he went observing elections to try and make sure that they were safe and secure all over the world. That's the legacy. Otherwise, you are playing with me. I don't need it. I can turn on TV and get entertained. I didn't vote for you for that.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. But this is your legacy that you're okay with them tearing down. And I was not pleased with the ACA, but I have seen that it helped a lot of people. People who were not able to get insured were insured. People, the lifetime cap, it had great components. I think that it needed to be a single payer system and it needs to be stronger.
Oh, but hold on, Shapiro, hold on. Wait, because that goes back to Naima's point, which is now we have to push for what it is that we really need, Shapiro.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. ACA is in the rearview mirror. Okay, I got it, and great. And it was, and you know what? It was a compromise. I get all of it, but that's politics. I got it. It was more than what we had before. But now I need to go to what it is that we need.
Absolutely, I agree.
Now, what have I told you down through the years, Shapiro? We've had who we wanted.
Now
but you must first get what you need. Before you get what you want, girl, you don't eat dessert first. Well, Naima doesn't eat dessert, but okay. She's like my sister. She eats twigs and that's all right. She's never had sniffles. I ain't mad at my sister. She was like, "Wait a minute, you can use seaweed for salt, don't you know?" You didn't think I was gonna get you. Yeah, you know I had to.
But you know, one thing I'd like to ask Shapiro, you know, when you say let people know, okay, if this passes, you're gonna die. Okay, that's alarming, and alarm is good when you have a place to direct that energy of anger and fury and upset. So after we have upset people, what do we want their energy to be focused on so that it comes out to positive action to get what we want? What do we want them to do after we've made them angry and upset?
And I definitely believe that we have to have a plan A and a plan B. I think that we do need to actually have we used to have these campaigns back in the day where it basically you caused the alarm, you sounded the alarm, and then it went to immediate action. And then guess what? You had a result.
Yes.
Right now, what we've been doing for the last 20 years is raising hell, but then the next day we back to the same old.
Right.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
what we don't want to happen.
The reality is that after we sound the alarm, then we need to make sure we put pressure on all of our legislators to make sure that they vote down this bill. I mean, like serious pressure. Like I'm type of person, like we need to storm the Capitol. That's where I'm at right now. Storm the Capitol.
Everyone, for the national security who are listening to this show. Hey.
Yeah, someone tried that, and it didn't always go too well.
She means that metaphorically, y'all. Honestly, it doesn't even matter, because the fact that you won't go along to get along already puts you in the crosshairs. So I mean, I laugh and I joke, but I've lived under surveillance all my life. It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, you must stand up, or you're gonna get knocked down, but you got to get back up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and we can't live like this, and we shouldn't.
Right.
Now, because you know what we have heard from our sister, Dr. Alia Amar, who lived. She's a scientist, research scientist. She lived over in the UAE, and they did what Gaddafi did. As soon as they tapped into that oil wealth, they said, we're going to make sure that all women are healthy and their newborn babies. Now we're going to establish a healthcare system, and a school system, preschool, primary, secondary, universities, wherever you want to go to school in the world, you can go. We'll pay for it, and everybody's going to be a homeowner. We will not have poverty here. Oh no, it's not that we won't have contempt for the poor. We are a rich nation. We're not going to have poverty, not poor people. We're not going to have that. We're going to eliminate it. Now, America is the richest nation in the history of the world. We could have done that. And if we change our minds, we can still have that. You all, I've got literally like 2 minutes because I got to run to the next hour. I want you, Naima, what is your final thought here, and and let us know how we can see you. And don't worry, you'll be back on the show.
Take the time to know who your legislator is and call them and email them, get their information and tell them, this is how I want you to vote. If you don't, then I'm going to vote against you in the next election. Simple message.
And she will make that happen, you all. Trust and believe. Shapiro Wells, your thoughts?
Same with Naima. I mean, basically, we can no longer sit around and wait for the change that we have to be the change that we want to see. And so we have to put forth the effort. It's going to take a collective of all of us to gather together to get the medical care that we need for America. We've been waiting for years to try to get single payer. This is the time now to push for it, and we can do it.
We can do it. We can do it. And we can create a floor beneath which no human being should fall in America. Yeah. We can make sure that getting pregnant and having a baby is not a death sentence. We can do that.
We can do that.
We can do that. We can do that. We can end poverty.
Yes.
In Appalachia and in the Mississippi Delta. I don't care where it is. White, black, brown, yellow, red, on the indigenous reservations. Nobody should be living like this.
That's right. So that's got to be the game plan.
I hear you, Naima. You got us straight on that today. Everybody, the next hour, let's talk about what's happening with these. We've had a lot of really tragic, we had a couple of tragic shootings, mass shootings in the United States. Many people are saying that they could actually thwart this Palestinian justice movement. We're going to be talking about that in the next couple of hours. First, we're going to look at how it's being reported. How it is being reported. Let's talk about that with Ari Paul and Jim Marakis of Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting. And in the next hour, we'll be talking with people who are on a 40-day fast, Naima, trying to focus on Gaza. So let us think about that, everybody. And Naima, I'll send you a link. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you're more than welcome.
Fantastic. Yes.
All right. Sending it to you right now, but we're going to hook on over, everybody. Get on over to the Santita Jackson Show, second hour, here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota.